Hello and a warm welcome to this special podcast from UniCredit. I'm your host, John Dawson. I want to talk to you about aging, about getting old. No, don't switch off, because over the next 20 minutes, we will be talking about aging well, about the longevity economy, about the many opportunities a longer life brings for individuals, for society, and for business. The world is aging. Most high-income countries across the globe are seeing older populations swell, and the number of people over the age of 65 is forecast to double over the next 3 decades. And it represents a profound change for us all, from Japan to South Korea, Germany to Italy. This isn't just a demographic trend, it's a shift that is altering the way the world works. Aging populations are a success story. Longevity is to be celebrated. Living longer is the result of improved healthcare and medical advances, of greater levels of wealth in many societies. But with the enormous opportunity that longevity brings, there are also some big challenges to address. People need to live well, not just longer, and workplaces and financial institutions need to adapt. Retirements need to be rethought, saving habits established earlier, and relationships with our careers need to adapt as well. The way we have mapped out life for generations to educate the young, to work and to retire after middle age needs to be redrawn. We are moving from an aging society to one focused more on longevity. And we all, individuals, companies and governments, need to think differently about living longer at all stages of life, not wait until we approach old age. Well, at the recent UniCredit Longevity Economic Forum in Milan, a one-day event which brought together leaders from the worlds of business, finance, academia, and from UniCredit itself, all this and a lot more was discussed on stage. We're going to delve into some of those crucial topics and trends in this podcast and guide you through the world of living longer and better. So let's get set for the long run, because in the words of David Bowie, aging is an extraordinary process where we end up becoming the people we always should have been.
We had to fight what we call ageism.
They are some of the happiest people on this planet.
So if you're going to build a sustainable retirement system, it has to be flexible.
We've got a fabulous opportunity.
And at the center of it all are people.
Let's start with the big picture. Nick Palmarini, the director of the UK's National Innovation Centre for Ageing, explains that the many factors influencing our individual ageing and longevity and how we cannot decouple getting older from our choices in younger years.
More or less, we will have 2 billion people over 60 by 2050, meaning that I think it gives you the magnitude of how many of us will be that way. And I think the subject is us, it's not them. Okay, my other advice, think about these things happening to all of us as individuals and as society. Each one of us in this room age in a different way. Each one of us, where we were born, our societal conditions, economic conditions, literally our postcode influence our trajectory of aging.
He also talks about the longevity economy.
So start thinking not a one solution, but a very customized type of approaches to aging and longevity. Hence, from an investment perspective, should have to be seen also from that way.
And that push to prepare for old age while we are young was emphasized by Erica Alessandri from the company Technogym. Erica and Technogym have created a Wellness Valley social project in Italy's Romagna area. Erica explains the real-world benefit of prioritizing health and the link between wellness and economic development.
For every dollar that you spend on your workforce well-being, you can earn up to $3.3, which it is a tangible benefit, and this is one example. Then obviously in certain countries where the healthcare system is based on insurances, for example, thanks to the technology, you can track that your employees actually are working out, and therefore there can be a good credit for that. We see these also in a larger scale. For example, we have launched in our region in Italy the Wellness Valley project, where we are headquartered, over 25 years ago, where we have engaged different stakeholders from both the private and public sector to both promote healthy lifestyles for the citizens, but also use wellness as a lever for sustainable economic development. And there also the numbers are incredible. I mean, in terms of the population is more active by over 10% than the national average. You have 50% less risk of disability due to chronic diseases for the population over 65, minus 6% incidence of diabetes on the population over 65. So you can really, if you engage wellness, health, physical exercise, is really an opportunity for everyone.
Stefano Bison, the CEO of Humanitas Medical Care, says that we all need to take care of our health through our own habits, and that behavioral change can be both simple and effective.
More than 1/3, 36% of our longevity, so how many years we live in health, again, talking about the health span, not the lifespan, depends on our behaviors. What is behaviors? Sleeping more, 8 hours per night. Eating less, caloric restriction, limiting dietary intakes, limiting sugars. Movement. Movement is the single most impactful action we can do to increase longevity. 45% of the population in Europe is not doing any physical activity. So it's a sort of a bomb exploding, but it's all stuff we can do. And then, of course, we know, and there's a lot about behavioral change here to be discussed, that people want to have the easy solutions and not to do the hard work. What it means in terms of healthcare, and that's a sort of seismic revolution in terms of healthcare. We need to change the way health systems are hardwired. So today, we cure sicknesses. We need to move from curing sicknesses to making prevention the backbone of a longer and lifelong longevity health management.
The opportunity to retire well is something that Nobel Prize-winning economist Robert Merton from the MIT Sloan School of Management honed in on during his talk. Most people will at some point want to retire and look forward to it as well. In the same way that we need to prioritize health for a happy old age, Robert explains that planning for retirement financially also needs to be tackled a lot earlier.
The easiest thing you can do to make retirement decision-making for individuals everywhere easier is show them the right numbers. And the right numbers are how much retirement income could be purchased now or with the resources you have now in your account. If you give the information to people in that form, show them what they could buy in retirement income, and you'll be amazed how well they're going to be able to think about where they are and understand what you're telling them. People are going to have to take greater responsibility for their own retirement. When you get to retirement, whatever assets or resources you have, get the most benefits that you can. And the benefits here from the statement of what the goal is retirement income, not wealth, income. Sustainable standard of living. We have to look to other ways of improving the chances for retirement, a good retirement, that we control, than just simply say, dial up how much expected return you need to get to where you want to be. They'd never mention how much risk you have to take to get there.
Retirement will most likely happen later into life for the young generations who enter the workforce today. That's not always a bad thing. We heard on stage from Katie Hart, who is a neuromarketer. She explores the way our brains change and explains the many assets of aging and the wisdom that can be harnessed as we age.
What if one of the strongest psychological assets that we have within our organizations, our communities, even our families, isn't innovation, isn't youth, isn't resilience? What if it's wisdom? For years, we've known, we've understood, we've embraced the fact we change on the outside. You don't look the same at 70 as you did at 7, or indeed 17. But how much thought do we give about what changes on the inside? Because a lot changes. And sadly, a lot of the headlines around this focus on the negatives. We talk about decline. I want to stop you thinking about it in terms of decline and start thinking in terms of difference. In younger adults, what we see as decisions are being made is that typically they're quite lateralized. They will be retained within one hemisphere or the other. And yet as our brain ages, we see that activity is no longer restricted to one hemisphere. It becomes much more inclusive and uses both hemispheres. Therefore, the decisions that we make might not be as fast, but the chances are they're better. So, we've got a fabulous opportunity. We're getting used to diversity in terms of gender, in terms of neurodiversity. We understand that what makes really good teams and really good organizations is bringing in variety, bringing in that difference, celebrating it, allowing it to work together collaboratively. And age should be no different, because aging brains do work differently. And if we bring them into our boards, if we retain them on our senior management teams instead of, as has already been referred to, letting people go, if we retain them, we gain so much.
The value of older workers was also stressed by Dr. Axel Borg-Supan, Director Emeritus at the Max Planck Institute for Social Law and Social Policy.
Well, most people actually think one reason productivity is declining is that we get older. Deep in our mind, we actually sort of have an idea that productivity grows from age 25 to somewhere, I better not specify very concretely, 45, maybe 50, maybe 35, and then it goes down, right? Downhill all the way. That is completely wrong. It's completely wrong. Individual productivity essentially stays flat in standard kind of normal jobs. There are exceptions, like if you're a soccer player. One of the big policy messages use the specific capital, the knowledge, the experience older workers have. And older worker, I mean 50 plus, quite young from my perspective, as long as possible. When they get older, make it easier for them to sort of slowly go into retirement, offer them part-time. It's still better to have a part-time position than no position at all.
Italy, the host country for this UniCredit event, has one of the oldest populations in Europe. And this presents particular challenges when it comes to the workforce. Those are the words from Tito Boeri, the head of the economics department at Bocconi University. He spoke about the need for a transformation in the labor market and a rethink in many areas of policy.
We are moving from a world where there was a shortage of jobs to a world where there is a shortage of workers. And that requires substantial changes in the way labor market policies are defined. And basically, we need to promote more mobility across jobs, removing all barriers to mobility of workers in terms of portability of social security rights, in terms of institutional restrictions to mobility, like non-compete clauses, and more broadly, knowledge about outside opportunities for workers. This is essential. Also to improve productivity, because a lot of productivity gains can be achieved by improving the allocation of workers to jobs. In order to contain the fall in the number of contributors, which is the worrying fact indeed, we need to work very much not only on fertility in general, but we have to work on the interactions between fertility and migration. There are very relevant interactions that are often not being considered. And sometimes you hear in the public debate people saying, we need to promote fertility while you should not do anything about migration. This is really a wrong message.
The huge demographic shift across high-income countries was a theme for the entire day. But Aviva Wittenberg-Cox, the CEO of 21st and ambassador at the Stanford Center for Longevity, says this.
Never before in the history of humanity have we seen demographic pyramids morph into today's squares. And how do we all adapt, individually and institutionally, to this uncharted human experiment? This whole way we've designed life to educate, work, and retire in 3 steps is now, I hope today, going to be officially obsolete.
Part of rethinking the way we have structured our lives is thinking about easing out of the workforce, rather than going from full-time work straight to retirement. Michael Spence, Nobel Prize-winning economist from Stanford, explains that we need to start creating something called glide paths.
I think as long as retirement, or this movement from working life to something else, has this what I call sudden stop characteristic, meaning one day you're doing this and the next day you're doing that, I think it's is designed to fail. So I think the conclusion from this is we need a good deal of creativity and mechanism design to design transitions. We need the business community to think carefully about it. It's common to say, well, we need a whole bunch of educational options, and I don't disagree with that, but we need a lot more than that. We need to really construct, glide paths.
What we do with our retirements to create purpose is something we all need to think about, says Annie Coleman for the Stanford Center on Longevity. If someone retires at 60, they can expect another 30 years of life, she says. That's not retirement, it's a whole third of a life ahead. So what will people do with that time?
What would it be like if you didn't have your job title, or if you looked at your LinkedIn profile and there was nothing there apart from your name? Who are you without it? And how does that make you feel? And the reason I ask you to think about that is that our professional identity, when that goes, it can be very difficult to define who we really are. I call it the identity quake. It's like tectonic plates shifting beneath your feet, where everything that you've built your life around suddenly moves. The professional identity, gone. The power, the status, the influence, the relevance, diminished. And the structure upon which you built your weeks, your months, maybe even your years, also gone. But those that get through to the fourth and final phrase, they are some of the happiest people on this planet because they have found something meaningful, they have found something that gives their life real purpose. Think about the activities, the sports, the experiences that you still want to have in your 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe even 90s, and prioritize today the movement, the exercise and the nutrition that's going to enable you to do that in the decades ahead. These are like your blue chip stocks in your purpose portfolio.
Longevity is not a topic just for individuals, for governments, for scientists, for policymakers, for financial institutions. It cannot be discussed in isolation, and we all need to think about it sooner, not later. So let's close out this snapshot of an incredible and insightful day at the UniCredit's Longevity Economic Forum by hearing from Richard Burton, Head of Client Solutions at UniCredit.
We are not just observers of societal change. We are part of the infrastructure that enables it. Our job is to anticipate future needs, support our clients, and unlock long-term value in the communities where we operate. The longevity economy is already reshaping consumption, investment, innovation, and the workplace. It is touching healthcare, education, real estate, insurance, and technology. And at the center of it all are people. People who want to live longer, wealthier, healthier, and more purposeful lives.
Thanks very much for listening to this podcast where we've been delving into the challenges and opportunities surrounding longevity. We hope you've enjoyed it. I'm John Dawson. Many thanks for listening.